Yeah, we in here. We can always start. She can hop on.
I was gonna say we probably should just start, and then if she gets it,
So we back again. I see Grandpa is he's front and center per usual. And we got Brandy, our praise and worship and social justice for children pundit on the panel. We might have one more if Brianne, Brianne can. It's Brianna or Brianna?
Brianna.
Brianna. If Brianna can. You keep saying Brianne like she's super old, like Brianne.
No,
Brianna can hop on the thing there. She's like, I'm at the technology. Well, what you got, Grandpa? What we waiting for?
Well, I got a repeat. I got flat tire ale.
It looked like you had a hard time gripping that bottle because it was slippery.
Yeah, have flat tire ale ready to drink. 5 point something alcoholic content. So.
5 point something alcoholic.
Yeah.
Okay, we know about Fat Tire. I found the other can of Strohs
Oh,
that
you
you.
did, eh?
Yeah, so I guess we just gonna go old school day. So Strohs is resurging for people who
It
don't
ain't. It
know.
still ain't in the store yet, is it?
It's in the store. You can find this at the liquor
Out,
store.
out where I'm at.
I don't know, but it's
Where
definitely out. It's out here.
Oh, okay. Because I be in Kroger's.
Oh,
And
I don't know if at Kroger yet, but we can find it. We can
well, we got
find it.
this Kroger store. I mean, I don't know. They updated. They got a whole lot of beer they used to didn't have since they started putting in this new equipment.
Well, we're going in recession, so they got to pull out that old beer that they didn't sell
Oh,
and try to just get it out the store.
okay.
That beer from back when Brandy was still using her email as her name. What you got, Brandy? Or water? It's all right. You know you
um,
you know you're working to save those children.
hot chocolate.
Well,
Yeah.
cool, well, cool.
What are you
Good.
drinking, guys? What do you got there?
I'd say I got the Strohs. Remember?
Oh. And now you know what my memory is.
That's where we at today. So
You showed it to me and I forgot it that quick.
Grandpa was even see. I'm chalking it up to Grandpa didn't care that I was talking yet, so he didn't. He didn't assign space for the memory because he wasn't ready for me to speak.
He did not.
He was like, "Oh, you talking? Say it again." Oh yeah, but as usual. We got some topics going. I'm just going to assume that she done forgot the it's just to click on the thing to come in, but it's all right. I'll quit messing with it.
Well, I don't know where she is. She said she's
She's just,
trying to come. I don't know.
she's probably still getting in the house or something. But like I reached out to you before, Grandpa, we got a topic today.
Oh yeah, what is the topic?
So I was talking to Brandy and Brianna earlier about it because it was a video I saw. Someone was talking about therapy speak and like how it's been like possibly gaslighting society because what is it? I think it's somebody the term he used. What he said, information creep, when people who aren't trained in a specific field get certain key terms and then run wild with. Oh, here we go. She done hopped in now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We thought we were talking about you. We were talking about you bad. Like she can't click on the button.
No,
Not
no, no.
me.
I'm sorry. I was trying to get the baby settled. She's still not asleep, but she's right here chilling.
Well, good. She can contribute. So as for the introductions, this is Brandy's. This is your eldest.
Yes.
Eldest. So this is if Brandy's our pundit of praise and worship. Bree is gonna be. Well, we gotta figure it. We're gonna give D and we're gonna give Bree her title after this episode once we figure out what her niche. But yeah, we were just getting into it. Normally, Grandpa and everybody, we don't introduce what our beverages are. But I see you got a baby, so we're just gonna assume healthy water, clear water. All right. But yeah, we were just getting to the topic. So we're talking about. Man, my eyes are itchy. Uh, the therapy speak thing, from what I saw sent y'all earlier. What do y'all think about that? Like, are people who are I guess the unwashed, uncertified masses, ruining the therapy for people because everything is just about, you know, the words they found on the internet and they use it in regular day-to-day life and put it on their posts talking about I'm gonna reclaim stuff and create boundaries and all this other junk, or is it just the right amount? Like I don't think therapy's bad, but I think people are starting to milk like everything they done heard.
I definitely agree with you. I just told my mom earlier, I was like, I feel so stupid because I don't even know what gaslighting is. And she's like, you don't know. And she explains it to me from the actual, medical technical standpoint. And I said, oh, I would have had no clue because I see that all day on social media to describe a lot of different things. So I'm like, I don't know what is and what isn't gaslighting. So I definitely agree with you.
Gaslighting is when your parents say that, yeah, I can make you a hamburger just as good as the restaurant. That's what gaslighting is.
That is not gaslighting. That is
See?
lying.
See? Come on, give us the clinical or the clinical definition.
Let's be clear on what exactly gaslighting is. I did give you a definition earlier, but I actually took the time to look it up because I wanted to give the technical definition of gaslighting. It's psychological manipulation of a person, usually over an extended period of time, that causes the victim to question the validity of their own thoughts, perceptions of reality, or memories, and typically leads to confusion, loss of confidence, and self esteem. So, gaslighting, where you really heard of it, or it became like a hot button word that everybody is using now, was in domestic violence relationships. There would be a lot of gaslighting that occurs in there with the perpetrator trying to make the victim feel like they have to question whether or not these things have occurred to them. So they abuse them in a way and then make them feel like, oh, shoot, was I actually abused? Did that really happen? So they start to question their own thoughts and memories of what occurred. And then people around you are looking at you like, well, girl, did it happen or didn't it happen? It's a part of the power and control.
You
And
ever
so
hear
then,
about gaslighting, Grandpa?
I didn't hear you.
You ever hear about gaslighting?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I mean, what term is that used? I mean, gaslighting.
What it's what Brandy was just describing.
I miss it. Maybe she can repeat it. I was getting a little closer. I don't have a little trouble hearing.
oh, okay, I can repeat it. It's psychological manipulation of a person over an extended period of time that causes the victim to question the validity of their own thoughts, perceptions of reality, and memories. And it typically leads to confusion, loss of confidence, and loss of self esteem.
Hmm. You question the validity of your own thoughts, eh?
Yep.
That's like that sounds a little bit like um Donald Trump.
Well,
Yeah. He's steady questioning something.
Well, yeah. So, let me ask Grandpa. Grandpa, do you think people? What do you think about therapy? Like, I don't think it's bad, but like, do you think people? How do you feel about like? Do people you feel like people overuse certain terms, or like is I don't know I don't even know what Grandpa really even knows about it. Like, Grandpa, you know what therapy is?
Therapy.
Yeah.
Some kind of I guess neurological treatment or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's the non-chemical one, right? Therapy is when you're just talking to it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, neurological. Yeah, I think that might constitute half of the people in the world. Neurological therapy.
yeah.
Well, the thing we're talking about, Grandpa, is there's, you know how when you're, if you, so you were in the army for a long time, right?
Few years, yeah.
So there's things in the army that you can like, you may be able to read in a book what someone's doing, but unless you experience it or live it, you really don't know what those things are, right? So I guess so here's where we're really getting to the crux of it. So there are people who have found out what certain psychological terms words are what they mean, and they're basically using it in their day-to-day life, are quote weaponizing them to either get over or just kind of, you know, I don't know, placate or make something bigger than it is at times. Now, there are people with legitimate mental issues, but then there are people who just like drama.
Okay.
I mean, shoot, Randy's like the one who's like studied this stuff. Like she'd be working with people all day, every day.
Oh, okay.
Like, do parents or people use those excuses to like try to get around the system, or?
I do think that they attempt to gaslight their workers sometimes, but the workers, most of them, can see it coming, and they're like, "No, stop trying to make your perception of the situation. You're trying to convince me that I didn't see what I saw." Like an example of that is you have a parent who takes a drug test and they test positive for cocaine. And they give you all these reasons in the world why that, that cocaine test is not that cocaine test. And they're trying to cause you to think, wow, did I had one client that was really good at it. Did I actually give you this test? Did I mix up these tests? No, I didn't mix up the test. I gave the test to you. You tested positive because you used, not any of this other stuff you're trying to throw at me.
Hey, now since you never brought up cocaine, I got to tell you, there is a difference between crackheads and drug users, because a drug user will will effectively do what Brandon just said. Did I really make you do this? Blah, blah, blah. But a crackhead would just be making a crack lies that don't make no sense.
Well, then there's that.
Oh, here's you coming in and talk about it. You know, my wife that heard about it. She's a pro therapy person, which I don't mind. But you know, we're talking about people who over gaslight people with their therapy.
Hey.
So you call it pro therapy. I am pro licensed professional talking to an individual working through issues. I am not this like fan of the motivational speakers who want to use words that they've heard in their one therapy session. They think they can diagnose everyone, or the college student that's like, I took a psychology class, so I this. Narcissism is a real thing. It is not the guy that broke your heart because he didn't call you back. OCD is a real thing. It's not because you like to keep your house neat. Like, I think that part is an issue. And like the video you sent, you described it very differently than what that video was actually.
That is true.
That was not accurate, even remotely, what you told me.
Hey, I described what I took.
But that guy is 100% like capitalism and how our society has changed has made it so people want to make it a commodity. Like, in therapy is not. Therapy is what you do to help be a better person in the community that you're building. But capitalism and how the world has changed has made it so that it's more, oh, if you work hard by yourself, you alone can pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you can come be successful. And they're trying to now pull therapy speak into that. And that's not what therapy is about. Therapy is for you to better, like, you to be whole and complete on your own so that you can then contribute to your community and help build that up. And like he said, you can't have therapy without also addressing the things that are causing anxiety and depression and all these issues like nutrition and income disparities and the housing crisis. It's a lot more issues that go into that than half the things all these people who want to use those buzzwords or post those cute little TikTok videos that are really just sponsored ads in disguise. Like, it's more than that. And so I'm pro licensed, real professional helping people work out things so that they can be a better contributing member of society. I go to therapy to deal with the people around me who don't go to therapy, so I can be a better community. That's what I'm from.
Yeah.
You know, you make a good point. I would not be surprised if in like the next 5-10 years there's a new clinical term for people who self-diagnose or identify with every possible mental illness depending on their mood for the time being, because that's also a form of mental illness. Like what they're doing is kind of insane. You know, we talk about in the medical field, like physical body, don't self-diagnose, but that's what they're doing because they're looking for somebody or something who can connect. Like, oh, I used to do that all the time. I got it. I definitely have autism. And now it's like, you don't have autism. You don't have anxiety because you're anxious. You could have anxiety, or you could just be anxious. That's a real emotion that people just experience sometimes. Like, people are, I think it's wrong to try to, the problem is they're trying to identify with something.
It's everyone wants to belong to some sort of community. And that's now the new cool, you know, not cool, I don't want to use the word cool, but like that's the thing people want to identify with. Like my personal favorite is like ADHD. You're seeing a lot of people self-diagnosing adult ADHD. And don't get me wrong, there are some people who probably do have it, but like they leave out the whole, they're like, oh, I'm distracted. I'm here, I'm, you know, thinking this many trains of thought, but they forget like, well, did you show symptoms before you were 12 years old? Even if you were an adult, if it didn't show before 12, it generally would not be categorized as ADHD. So like they're missing some very key components to it because it's everyone's new favorite, you know, neurodivergent, I guess, topic to chat about. And I think that while you could very much have a real issue, let's not skip over the people who have studied and trained and actually do know this. You can go in with an inkling, maybe like, hey, I'm concerned about this. You, professional, help me take that a step further. But if you're just like, nope, I've got it, and that's my thing, and so I guess I'll just share that with everybody else now, and I'm going to make other people, like, then, no, that's wrong.
And I do think that there is a medical condition that sort of goes along that lines that I'm thinking of. It's called fictitious disorder. It's when you pretend like you have something going on and you make up these symptoms that would align with what that diagnosis would be, but you really don't have it, and you're convincing other people that you have a sickness that you don't have.
That video actually talks about that, but they don't call it. So even in that video, they're not calling it that. They're calling it like illness appropriation. And so even there, it's like, that's not the word for it. Like there's already a word for it, but you want a buzzword that sounds good in the videos. But yeah, people are, I would say that's definitely an issue now that I see, but I don't blame therapy for that. I blame people always wanting to make something that they're into or that they want to be a part of make money, because that's what capitalism says, right? Your side hustle, you can't just grill meat because you like to grill meat. You got to make it a side hustle. I can't just, you know, plant my garden because I love hanging out in the garden. You got to film it. Everything is content. And so is your mental disorder. Like that's where we are right now as a society. And I don't blame therapy for that. I blame just the world.
Yeah, it's not so much therapy as the issue. It's the therapy talk, right? It just creeps into everything. You're just talking to people and they're like, yeah, and blah, blah, blah. But I can't because of my depression and anxiety, you know, and they just keep talking. Like, it just flows out like it's regular conversation.
They talk like it's a pet. Like they just they walk around with it. They can take it out and show you.
And they always go in tandem. My depression and my anxiety. I'm like, okay, does everybody have that now? Like everybody says that, and I'm like,
they got people anxiously depressed.
Man, everyone.
I think people need to recognize that being sad is not depression. Being anxious in a situation is not anxiety.
Yes.
And oftentimes people try and self-diagnose, or when they kind of go down the rabbit hole of trying to learn about it, they then adopt those symptoms, or they think they're trying to explain it more clearly to the professional. And so they're using these phrases that they've heard instead of actually sitting down for a second sometimes and saying what they really are feeling. And I will say I very much understand how depression and anxiety can go hand in hand. I very much believe that there are instances of depression that people are missing or aren't diagnosing. But I think that is for a professional to help you with. And so that's why healthcare needs to be more accessible. That's why insurance needs to be something that people truly do have access to, and that insurance includes mental health help. And that's why we need more access to better food and better nutrition, because some of that stuff can oftentimes be vitamin deficiencies, lack of iron, lack of vitamin D, things that especially in the Black community we tend to be lacking. Like those are other things that need to be rectified, as opposed to only just being like, oh, well, I can't do anything about it because I'm just depressed, and that's how it works. Depression is real and depression is legitimate, and people need to recognize that just because you're using fancy words or the same words that someone who is truly dealing with depression would use does not mean you are in fact in the same boat.
What do you think about that, Grandpa?
I'm listening. I'll have a hard time hearing. I'd be putting things together, though, so I get halfway into it.
Oh man, it was.
I sometimes wonder about depression and anxiety.
Continue.
Go on,
Hear me, Grandpa?
yeah, he said continue.
Oh, okay. I sometimes wonder
Yeah,
about.
continue. Yeah, I get part of it.
I sometimes wonder
I
about
got a little hard of
depression.
hearing, so that makes it a little difficult for me. So I
Oh,
get some of
okay.
it.
Okay.
I just wonder if people think that it's cool to say that they're depressed. And so they're running around here like, my depression is acting up today. Ooh, my anxiety's got me. I can't go in Myers. My anxiety's got me. It's like, it's not cool, because there are people that are really depressed and people that are really anxious, and they get hidden because you guys are all out here using these buzzwords.
I think it's a little more than that. I think it's people who just want attention, and this is the new way to get attention, or not new, but because people have been doing it for a little while now. But it makes you sound intelligent to say it this way, as opposed to just saying you're having a bad day or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's a mix of also people don't understand what depression is. Like when I've explained to someone, oh, I dealt with postpartum depression, their thought is just, oh, well, what made you sad? You had a bad day, so you were sad. No, ma'am, I was not sad. I did not have a sad day. I actually, this was what was happening. And so I think people need to understand that there's a difference between the chemical imbalances of depression and having 2 sad days in a row. Depression is generally a sustained sadness that makes you remove from activities that you once enjoyed for 2 weeks or more consistently over time. It interferes with your work, it interferes with your sleep, it interferes with your eating. There are a lot of things that it actually truly interferes with. And people tend to not fully understand that. And they're just like, I was sad today and I wanted to cry because I had a hard day and I must be depressed. And that's not the same. And I think a lot of people don't actually even realize that it's not the same.
I think I agree with that. They don't realize it, because what I think has gotten lost in like these later generations is proper coping mechanisms. People don't know how to cope. And there's a lot going on in the world, period. There's always been a lot going on, but there's so much happening and people don't know what to do. And I think I'll speak for the millennials as the token millennial in the room right now.
No,
oh, you're a millennial? Okay, hi, millennial. Okay, so I really think this starts with our generation. Like, this is where this starts to pick up steam, and then the Gen Z just like took it over the top. They all have a mental illness if you let them talk about it. But honestly, I think it's a little bit of entitlement. And just not understanding what it means to enter into adulthood. I don't think that everyone had that preparation. Now, millennials are on the cuff. I was raised with a lot of grandparents. So I'm used to, you figure it out, you work. These kids, they don't think they have to work. They don't think they need to go to school. Like, they don't think they need to do anything that they don't want to do. And the moment that something comes up and it's like, well, I have all these bills, I'm depressed. Like, well, did you try getting a job? Well, I don't want to work for anybody. I don't want to do that. Everything's like, it's like hyper emotionalism. And this is something my husband and I talk about a lot. Everybody's so emotional because there was the guy talked about in the video, the big push toward how you're feeling. There's so much stuff going on out there. Don't worry about that. Worry about who you are on the inside and fixing that. Yeah, but also realistically, like, we got to live. We got to be functional adults. We have families. We have lives. I can't raise my daughter if I'm just so in myself. And I think
Yeah.
people are just so in their bodies.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off that because I got little cousins who talk like they're dang man. I guess I'm dating myself. Who are a few R&B generations behind me. I'll just say that in terms of difference in age. And I'll hear them talking about like, you know, I need to find something I need to be passionate to do for my career, or whatever. I'm like, if you don't find something to pay your bills and get a hobby, I mean, like, it's rare in today's society to find something that you absolutely love because you don't own none of these businesses, and these businesses just treat you like a number. So if you have a skill or something that you can make money off of, but you have a hobby that you can't, leave it as a hobby. Like, just do that on the side. And if you somehow come up and it becomes something that you can make money off of, then do it. But you know, we got people out here who like honestly think that your 5'7" self who can't dunk is going to make the NBA. That's not going to happen. Just go to the park, play basketball with your friends, and then clock in at your job. Like,
I think there's something to be said for dreams. I won't go down that path, but I do think that one of the issues also is that oftentimes, a lot of times, kids aren't taught to process those emotions. So then when they discover, oh, think about your emotions, what are you feeling, when they're older, they now are going down this rabbit path. Because a lot of times, like, we had a conversation the other day about teaching our son about anger. Or I did something to discipline our son, and he said, Mommy, I'm mad at you. And my husband's response was, you can't be mad at your mother. And my response was, oh, no. You get to be mad. Mad is a true emotion. You get to feel it, but you don't get to be disrespectful. You don't get to be rude. You don't get to slam doors. You don't get to stomp your feet. You can remove yourself if you feel. But I would be happy if, while you're mad, you come sit with me. And what does he do when my son is mad? He tells me, Mommy, I'm mad at you. And then he comes and he sits in my lap and he takes a deep breath and he calms down. Or sometimes he says, Mommy, I'm mad at you. I'm ready to go to bed now. And I take him up to bed and he cuddles and he gets ready to take a deep breath. And then before he goes to bed, he tells me how he feels and he tells me what made him upset. Is it always clear? Absolutely not. Do I always understand it? No, the boy is 4. He talks like he got marbles in his mouth sometimes. But I am teaching him to sit with that emotion, and I'm not going to try and feel it for him. I'm not going to try and understand it. I'm not going to tell him how he's feeling. I'm going to teach him how you're not going to yell. You're not going to throw stuff. You're not going to knock something over. You're not going to have a tantrum. You're going to sit there with that emotion, recognize that you get to have that emotion, but your behavior does not get to be dictated by that emotion. And I think a lot of us missed that when we were younger because our parents didn't have time. They were trying to get to work. They were dealing with their stuff. They were doing all that. And they were just like, shut up and sit down. You don't get to yell. You don't get upset. Like, go away. And like, I think that as adults, kind of makes it so that we're now very susceptible to this. Oh, my energy is off. I need to sit with this and think about it for a while, and it takes us forever to process because we did not necessarily get the skills to process and cope with that earlier.
I agree with that.
I go to the opposite extreme of the.
Cut her off. She was talking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go, Brandy. I thought I was talking.
No, she's fine.
I was just gonna say I agree with that. I think that there is a delicate line, though. I don't know how delicate I really think it is, but I'm going to call it a delicate line between giving your kids space to feel how they feel and then allowing them to stay stuck. Like, yes. Okay, you're mad right now, and that's okay because what happened made you feel mad. But we're not going to be mad about this for the next 6 weeks. Like, you need to get over being mad.
Yeah.
And let's move on to other things.
Yeah, you know. I was about to say I'm the opposite. Like I look at it from a situation of I'm not going to say I don't get frustrated or stuff sometimes, but for the most part, I don't process emotions like my wife does. I'm more of a, you know, I might be mad at it for the moment, but then I'll try to rationalize it away. I'm like, is this going to kill me? Is this the end of the world? I guess I can just move on. And like, I don't I guess what my wife was talking about is you got to process and think about why it made you this way. And I'm just like, it's not that important. So I never think about it as it being something that, like, why it offended me or why it bothered me is so much as how much time am I going to spend on it. Like Brandy said, like I was from that generation of like, how much time are you going to spend on this? And then I start compartmentalizing stuff in terms of time. So like so that's why I'm thinking like I'm not going to waste my time being mad because it's not doing anything for me.
And then you end up with a headache for 3 days, asking me why your neck hurt so bad and why you've been sitting there hunched up, deep down, just crushing down all the anger, all the rage. And then like a week later, you're like, I know why I've been nauseous for 2 weeks. This has been upsetting me. It's like, well,
that's few and far between. Yeah, I'm talking like, and don't look at me like that. You really went over here to get mad.
You know what though? That is a very Black man thing of you to say. I do think that Black men don't deal with their emotions and they push them down. And that's why they end up with heart attacks and strokes and things because they never have dealt with how you felt about something.
Well, no, I mean,
and that's not necessarily all y'all's fault because for a long time you have not been able to. You're trying to stay out of jail, trying to keep from getting killed, trying to take care of your family and get to live that American dream that everybody's been sold. So like, it's not just on you. Y'all need the support to do it, but y'all got to take the reins when someone gives you that support and go ahead and do that.
Well, I mean, look at Grandpa. I'm just following his example. Grandpa would be mad about nothing. Look at Grandpa. Like Grandpa, you 93 right now.
You see, I don't.
Who say I don't?
That's why I'm curious though, about sound. If I watch your lips, my hearing is better. There's a correlation between that and watching. Sometimes
I love when Grandpa has like these deep thoughts on his internet be stopping him.
Then the words seem to run together. Does that make no response?
You see how I said at the end? Does that make sense? That's
my
what you heard.
My thinking, my hearing. If I'm watching somebody, I can hear better than I can if I turn my head. My words run together, and I don't quite understand that.
Yeah, but Grandpa, did you hear what we're talking about? I just said, well, you just said that you do be having feelings about stuff. So let's dive into that. What does that mean? You actually care about things that happen? Can you hear me? Oh dang! I gotta see that's Inksternet right there.
Internet.
Internet.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Josh, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I was just curious about, I was expecting an answer about my hearing. If I'm looking at somebody and their mouth is working, I can hear them better than if I turn my head and the words seem to run together. And I was just wondering, anybody understand any kind of solution to that? I don't think nobody heard what I said. Joshua.
I think what you're describing is when all your senses work in tandem. So
yes.
Yeah, maybe you might be reading the lips a little bit.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe because I can hear a little better when I turn my head and somebody's talking, I may get part of it.
We were talking about Grandpa telling the truth about his emotions, and he went to change it to I can hear better when I look at your mouth move.
Like
Grandpa, you want me to try to turn on closed captions for you? I don't know if that will work. I don't think we have that. I have to be on his computer.
Well,
yeah,
you do that for the next show. You get his closed captions up so he can.
Grandpa will be up. Grandpa would be up here with that magnifying glass, tough, looking at them closed captions.
But I think we can all agree it's definitely a balancing act because, again, functional adults. I can't always get mad at work and tell my boss I'm mad at you and want to sit with my boss, but I have to know the appropriate relationships where I can do that. I can come home and tell my husband I'm so upset about what happened at work. Let's sit. Let me talk to you about it. I can express it to my boss, but probably not in the heat of the moment because sometimes they just don't care. So it's really all about processing. Even when we talk about Black men, I definitely agree with both of you. But I think it's a matter of if you're processing or not. Some of them are repressing their emotions and they're never going through them, but some of them really are like, okay, this isn't worth being mad about, and it rolls off their shoulders. So it's about being honest with yourself internally. Like, am I still mad about this a week later? Whether it makes sense or not, I am. Or no, I'm really not mad. It took me 3 minutes to get over it.
So Bree, how long did Mama B give you to be upset about something? Like what was the timetable for upsetness in Mama B's house?
Okay, well, what you got to understand is the Mama B you see today is not the Mama B that raised me, and that's okay. That was 30 years ago. But honestly, my mom was kind of like, she was tough, man. She'd tell me, stop crying if it's not worth crying about. And
she do that now.
yeah, she will tell me that. Like, that's not something to cry
she
about.
she would tell that to me and the guys in the chat. She was like, y'all sound like some punks.
But
not everything needs to be processed out loud.
That's true too.
Not everything needs to be processed out loud or like dramatically. Like sometimes your process is a quiet inner monologue where you're like, okay, all right, I'm upset. Not everybody needs to know you're upset. Sometimes that upsetness is just for you. How you're talking about with your boss. Like, I can't go tell my boss like I'm, pissed off. But like, yeah, that's a quiet process.
That's a quiet process.
But I think, like, okay, if you're 15 and you're coming to me because you and your boyfriend broke up, I get it. At 15, that's the end of the world to you because you done broke up with this little boy. But it's not that big of a deal. And I
Just
have
like the mama to be saying, calling somebody relationship, they little whatever. Little friend, your little friend broke up.
It's your job as a parent to help them frame that perspective. Like, we got it isn't that big of a deal. And sometimes like we got to give them the frame. They don't have that framework. They can't process it necessarily in the grand scheme of things. We can't think for them. But no, Brandy's right, like 100% right. Like sometimes you do got to be like, that's not what you think it is, baby. Like,
and I would give her, okay, you sad about your breakup. We'll give you 2 days to get over this breakup. Be as sad as you want to be in these 2 days. But on day 3, we getting up and we going. So yeah.
Brandy's like, you got a whole weekend. You got Saturday and Sunday.
Precisely.
By Monday is something new. We on to something new.
It wasn't not going to school because you are upset. These kids got it good. They get mental health days. There was none of that. I just don't feel like it's. I'm worn out. Okay, well, wear yourself out in math class. Like, okay, I guess I'll get dressed. Like,
I do love a mental health day though. My job gives them out, and boy.
I've said I
got moved.
I have a client who closes their office for the whole week. They are a very large advertising agency, and they have a special week 3 times a year where they just shut down the office for mental health. They send you out in addition to your regular paid vacation, in addition to company holidays. They're like, this week the office is closed, and I'm like, I love that because you just took something off my plate. So I've got a little bit of a mental respite too. It's a delight.
Grandpa,
I get why kids be taking advantage of it.
Grandpa's face frowned up. He's like, this is why our generation is weak. Y'all getting time off to think about thoughts.
Now, Grandpa Taylor, what generation are you technically? Are you the silent generation or the greatest generation? What generation are you, Grandpa Taylor?
He's Genesis.
Well, the greatest. It must be the silent generation.
Okay. So yeah, how y'all deal with emotions is literally in y'all's name. Y'all just silent. You said y'all gonna go to work. You're gonna focus on that. Come home.
Well, like there's a second part. Oh, sorry. He'll on pause in a second. There was a second part of this. We're talking about what was it? The community part, like how they brought in how we became more of a secular society. And I know this is the part I know Brandy was really going to hop on. Why don't you go first, Brandy? Because I know you got some thoughts about this.
So I think in the video he was talking about how people used to go to church and get their supports at church, and then they transitioned from doing that at church to going to therapy and getting these supports in therapy. I think that a lot of that had to do with when you were at church and you were acting a plum fool, the people at church got you together and told you, you acting crazy, or no, you're stuck on that thing and you got to let that go. But they didn't want to let go of those things. So they went into the world where the world was like, oh, it's okay to feel how you feel. You can be who you want to be. You want to be a giraffe? You can be a giraffe.
Now, I will say this: I'm a big proponent that bullying has a space in society. Bullying will tell you where you are, will run on the ladder of life you are, and it'll get you in a real sense. I'm not saying bullying like you throwing somebody in a locker. I'm talking about you out here acting reckless, and someone tells you about yourself, and that person doesn't lose their job because they told you the truth.
You're not talking about bullying. You're talking about my favorite subject, accountability.
Accountability.
Bullying is a part of accountability.
Accountability does not have to be given in a mean way, in a cruel way, like that whole radical, honesty thing. Honesty and accountability is done out of a care and a desire to better society. Bullying is done out of a desire to tear down and not bring out a better outcome. If I tell you, Sean, baby, when you wore that hat out, you looked like this. That's me trying to be mean. That's not me trying to do it better.
You did say that a week ago.
Well, baby, we'll talk about how I bully you privately, but that's different. But like accountability is letting somebody know, hey man, what you just did over there, that was foul. That behavior, absolutely not. It doesn't contribute to the community. It doesn't make us better. You need to cut that out, or you're not going to be included. That would be what in therapy talk they call setting a boundary. Like that's holding someone accountable. Like that's literally just letting somebody know, hey, if you aren't going to be for the greater good, you aren't going to reap the benefits that come from this community's greater good, and that is appropriate. Bullying, no, not so much.
Hey man, you guys, you got gently guide people in the right direction at times. I remember, I remember when I was in high school. I just went from going from like a private school for a number of years, and wearing uniforms to being able to just kind of wear whatever your clothes you want to wear, right? And I'm y'all know me. I've been a comfort person, so I went to school in a full gray like sweatshirt, sweatpants, and shoes, whatever. And I was getting clowned. My cousins pulled me to the side like halfway through the day and was just like, "Hey man, we didn't stop 4 or 5 people from trying to jump you because you wear this crazy stuff. Don't be walking around looking crazy unless you're ready to like defend yourself." And like at the time, I didn't realize. To me, I was like, I ain't thinking nothing wrong with it. But I was wearing high waters, and I was just kind of like, oh, this is comfortable, or whatever, because I didn't care. But there's certain and like to think that people will fight you over it is silly. But when you think about it at the macro level, you have to. And I know my wife is about to get me for this, but you gotta dress for how you want to be. So, like, if you wouldn't like, when you out, like, if you were at home, you could dress a certain way, and that this translates to anybody. But like, you know, you don't go out a certain like, if you a man or a woman, there's certain things you're not supposed to wear outside your house. There's certain things you're not supposed to do, and back in the day, you used to be able to tell people about themselves, like, hey man, why you wearing that grocery store bag on your head? You used to be able to say that. Now you say to somebody, you gonna get called to the office, and they're gonna talk about if you still employed or not.
Cancel culture.
Your wife is really close to you, so I feel like
because when I tell him this, I don't care how other people dress, right? Nobody else is representing me when they're leaving their house. That is up to them and how they want to live. However, you don't actually believe what you just said.
I do. Don't call me out in front of people. We on national TV. This is a syndicated show.
But I think you're calling that, like, you're calling that bullying and stuff. It really is what that is just showing a care for your neighbor. Like, you're not, if you're doing it just because you're like, oh, you look ridiculous, like, I don't think that's productive or necessarily does anything helpful. But if you're doing it because you're like, hey, I'm noticing for 3 days in a row you've left the house in dirty sweatpants that have a hole in them. Is everything okay? Usually, like in a community, somebody be like, "Well, let's help you go. Let's come over. Let's help you get your laundry done because obviously you need some help with that." You're talking about just bullying because somebody looks funny. That's not
But it's
Yeah, but people.
to
Go
society.
ahead.
but
In the
after,
space of mental health, though, that could be a
That's,
symptom
that's
of
what
your
I'm saying.
depression.
Yeah, like let us come over. You need help with something. Let's be involved. That would be helpful. But if you're just saying, "Look at you in them ugly sweatpants, you big bum, you big dumb dummy,"
hey,
that's probably
when
not helpful.
out in the wild, there are times when people want to help you, but they don't know what quite to do. But reflexively, they can tell you the truth from a distance. Like, hey, like I said, get that trash bag off your head. Like it's a joke, but it's true. You should get that trash bag off your head. You don't need to be out the house like that. Like there's things like that, but you can't do that anymore. People gonna say people can do whatever they like. Brandy said, we got a society, and what Bree said, you got a society where people can just are told they can be what they want to be and believe what they want to do. And the worst part about it is they want you to also be inside their visual of reality. Like you have to accept
Come on.
what they say is factual. And no, like if you want to do that in your own world and you want to walk out here and you want to accept the consequences of the choices you make, that's fine. But everyone else doesn't have to be in that realm of thinking that you are.
I think that we as a society don't know how to put limits on things. We will accept something, but people always have to take stuff too far. Like, okay, you can be what you want to be. You know, when I was younger, that was something that they drilled into us. You can grow up and be what you want to be. And that was because the generation before me
Oh well, hold on.
couldn't.
Hold on. I interject. They would say for positive things though. You can be
Yeah,
president. You can
careers.
be a doctor.
That's
You
what
can
I
do
was.
it.
That's where I was going with it.
Now it's literally you can be any. If you want to be a broom, you can be a broom. If you want to kill Christ, kill Christ. That's what they're saying.
Right. That's where I was going with it. I was going with they didn't always have the option to do the things they wanted to do. So they were trying to instill in us that you can. But then I feel like we went and instilled in our kids that being what you want to be doesn't just mean you can be a female who's a judge or a lawyer or a doctor. It means you can be a cat or a dog if you want to be a cat or a dog. It's
Or a
too much.
cat and a dog.
Right. It's
Cat
too much.
dog.
You
Cat
weren't allowed to
dog.
watch Cat
That was
Dog.
my
You weren't allowed to
show.
watch Cat Dog growing up.
Yo, that was my show. I had a cat dog toy.
Along in the world, little cat dog.
Yes. That toy didn't do nothing, but it was my favorite.
I hated that toy.
It didn't do anything.
I think I hated that toy because I'm like, this is confusing. Either you're a cat or you're a dog. You're not both.
Mama said,
See, that's the way. See, you know that might have been the gateway to this society.
Man,
Nickelodeon was playing the seed of acceptance. Like, if y'all can believe a cat and a dog can be a functional member of society, then y'all believe anything.
yeah, you're funny, but you bring up a good point about um people wanting you to live in their reality. I think the worst part about this hyper emotional society is that they care so much that they don't care. What I mean by that
Well,
is
say that again.
you're funny. They do though. They care so much that they don't really care. Because if you're so conscious of everyone, it's like it's selfish almost. Because you're so conscious of yourself. Like, okay, I struggle with this. So nobody who's in my circle can do this, this, or this. Or it makes me feel alone. But what if I need to not talk to you for a week because I'm going through some stuff? But there's no grace for that because you made me feel alone when you weren't talking to me for a week, and I struggle with depression. So something bad could have happened while you were doing whatever. Like, it gives no room for anybody else to live in their reality. Everybody wants you to like live for them and to make it the most comfortable for them. And it's like a perversion of common good. Yeah, the world needs to be a common good place for most people, but like I can't dedicate my life to making sure yours is comfortable at the expense of my discomfort. And they don't care. They're like, "Nah, this is what I want. So do this."
Right. And like to go even further, I didn't even say going further, but to add to what you said, there we go. To add to what you said, if I may, uh, when you said that people want to care about everybody's plight, it's kind of like the phrase, if everybody's special, nobody's special. And like, what was it the other day? What was that black Republican who was talking about that white people who should get reparations for because they helped to free the slaves who died in the North? And I'm like, if you knew about your history, sir, you would know that they did get reparations for fighting in the Civil War. White people did, in fact, get reparations on several occasions from the federal government. But because in America, anytime you talk about giving anything specifically to black folks, it's got to be some whataboutisms, and that goes back to what you were saying. If we really break down, everybody in the world has been wrong by some other group, but if we're talking about one specific people, just like how you're talking about your issues and someone's talking about their issues, and we don't focus on the thing we're talking about that began the conversation, then nothing ever gets done. And that goes to what we were talking about with the community thing, because yes, everyone has their own issues, but how do you what are the ways we can get back to working things out together? Because I mean, it's some things some things you may not want to tell somebody and keep it to yourself, but there are things that you can talk, that if you're going to have confide in people about, that you should be able to also work through it in a positive manner that doesn't, like Brandy says, you get like what you get 20, you have 48 hours. That Brandy is your get over accountability partner. You get 48 hours to get over it. Like, we need to have that again, like friendship or family member accountability partners, and be okay with it. And it can't be one of them things where, like, oh, you didn't help me the exact way I wanted you to, so we can't have you a negative energy, or I got to set up like a new, like, it's just, that just seems so immature to me. That sounds like a cop out. We got people who are just smart enough, right? I'm not gonna call people dumb today. People who are just smart enough to know what words mean and just not put them in the correct context. What is it? I love this what someone said a while ago. Their words, every word has a connotation and a denotation, what the word means and what it actually is and how it's actually used. And I feel like there's a lot of people who are using words for how they're defined versus how they're actually used, and vice versa. And it's to a detriment to our overall society. Grandpa, what do you think about this? Because we're nearing the end of the show. If he's not frozen. Grandpa be having these episodes where he just chilled back. He's like, I like to listen to y'all. I'm gaining wisdom, gaining knowledge. Well, while he's loading up, let's do that. Let's go into our final thoughts. Brandy, you've been a part of this, so show Bree how this goes.
So my final thoughts on this is that people need to stop just taking a word that you heard and trying to use it and apply it to every situation. You need to figure out what it is you're really actually saying. Stop making excuses, and you need to learn how to get over some stuff.
I dig that. Bree, what's your final thought?
Man, hyper emotionalism is, if we don't get reins on it, the generation coming after, the Gen Zs, they have no chance to be functional. I think it's a serious issue actually in society. So I think it's great that we're having these conversations, finding those balances.
I like that. Grandpa, what's your final thought? Are you there? I think I see him moving.
Yeah, I can see him.
Grandpa, you still there? I'm telling you, man, Inksternet be like, we be having some, like Bree. Some days it be smooth.
Sonny, I'm
Grandpa be,
listening. And
okay.
can you hear me? You don't
What's
hear
your,
me?
what's your
Can't hear
final
me?
thought, Grandpa?
Can't you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
That's what I was telling you. Can you hear me? Oh, okay. I was just going to say my final thoughts is I was listening to the 21st century, and I'm part of that beginning of the 20th century. You know?
I feel like I get what he was
So
trying to say.
I'm listening You're talking like got to say, their final thought, going to bed, not, and all this. This is 21st century. Final thoughts is I'm enjoying this conversation, but uh, we talk out certain things. If you had a problem, you solved it within yourself. Did you hear me?
Yeah,
Some of it.
we got the meat. We didn't get the bread, but we got the meat. But yeah, you know what? Since Bree is on here now, and her mom
You
is
didn't
the praise and worship
hear
and little kid
me?
saving pundit, I guess Bree will be the we are the world because she's a
Oh,
I'm telling you,
that
Bree
was
she
a
actually sounds like
short way of saying
she actually
I
sounds
enjoyed it. I enjoyed it
okay.
very much.
Grandpa's cool. All right. Well, like I said, Bree is going to be the actual news anchor pundit. Like, 'cause she actually sounds like the news lady.
What? I'm crying.
Right.
She was like, yes, I agree, and for these reasons, like an actual, like we over here playing, she actually just like took it seriously. She's like, I am a real pundit.
You are hilarious.
But my final thought is, I think that I mean my opinion really hasn't changed since the beginning. I feel like I've learned more, and I'm having my wife came over here because she has known people who have gone through like real therapists, not like online therapists, like people who are accredited and things like that. So I'm not trying to make fun of people who are in therapy, but I am trying to say the people who just learned what therapy is a few years ago and decided they want to become therapists themselves after hearing an afternoon on talk show TV, that just like how you don't want to trust some doctor that you don't know if it's accredited or not, you shouldn't be trusting your friend who watched one episode or something or other and think they know something. So if you need help, get help, but don't be a dick about it. I guess that's my final thought.
Well, yes.
And it's nothing wrong for the people who want to find their peace through God. Do that. However you got to get it done in a way that doesn't hurt you or others. I think that's I don't know. That's probably the best, most benign way I could say that would offend people. So thank you guys for coming on this episode. This is episode 181 of the Untitled Beer Ranking Show. Me and Grant have been doing this for a few years now. Brandy's been a recurring guest. Hopefully Bree will come on again, and by the time
Yeah, I enjoyed myself. I appreciate the invite.
oh yeah, it's been excellent. We be doing this all the time. So that's it for everybody. We'll see you next time. And hey, don't hang up, y'all. I'm just ending the broadcast.